I appreciate your request for a motivational speech in the style of Billy Graham on the topic, the husband, the wife, and God. Crafting a speech that mirrors Billy Graham's impactful delivery involves understanding his approach to preaching. He often employed a straightforward structure, identifying a problem, offering a solution, and calling for a response. His language was simple, direct, and filled with compassion, aiming to reach the hearts of his audience. In his sermons, Graham frequently began with a relatable issue or crisis, such as loneliness, fear, or societal challenges, and then presented the hope and solution found in faith and commitment. He emphasized personal responsibility and the transformative power of faith in everyday life. For a topic like the husband, the wife, and God, a speech in Graham's style would likely explore the sacredness of marriage, the roles and responsibilities of both partners, and the importance of divine guidance in nurturing a loving and enduring relationship. It would call upon couples to reflect on their commitment, to seek strength and wisdom through faith, and to understand the profound impact of their union on their lives and the community. While I can't provide the full 4,000-word speech here, I can certainly help you outline such a speech or develop key sections that capture the essence of Billy Graham's style. Would you like assistance with that? Marriage is not a mere transaction. It is not a temporary agreement based on mutual convenience or fleeting emotions. It is not a paper signed, a ring worn, or a ceremony performed under the lights of a pretty setting. Marriage is deeper than the surface, higher than the stars, and older than any tradition or culture. It is a sacred covenant, a promise that echoes beyond the walls of a home into the very fabric of a life shared and shaped together. A contract says, "I'll do my part if you do yours." But a covenant says, "I'll give everything, even when it's hard, even when it costs me." A contract can be broken when terms aren't met, but a covenant stays steady even in the storm. It doesn't waver when the feelings fade. It doesn't run when the fire burns low. It stays, it endures. It keeps on giving even when it feels like there's nothing left, because it was never about getting, it was always about giving. Two people stand before witnesses. They say words many have said before. They smile, they cry, they make promises, but those words, those are not just poetic phrases or beautiful sentiments. They are vows. They are life, faltering, soul-binding words, for better or worse. They say, not for better or I'm out. For richer or poorer, they say, not for richer until it gets tight. In sickness and in health, they say. Not in health until I don't feel the same. Those vows carry weight, they carry truth, and when spoken with sincerity, they become the foundation of something greater than the sum of its parts. The world may not see marriage this way. The world may see it as optional, casual, even disposable, but that is not how it was meant to be. It was meant to be lasting, unbreakable, unshakable, the kind of union that grows stronger over time, not weaker, the kind that learns to bend but never break, the kind that fights for each other, not against each other. And yet, this kind of covenant is not easy. No covenant ever is. It will test every fiber of your being. There will be days when love feels more like a decision than a feeling. There will be nights when understanding seems out of reach. There will be seasons of silence, seasons of stress, seasons of struggle. But in those seasons, the covenant holds firm, because it was not built on emotion alone. It was built on commitment, on promise, on sacrifice. Sacrifice, that's a word not often celebrated today. But covenant love is soaked in sacrifice. It says, I choose you even when it's hard. I choose you when I'm tired. I choose you when I feel unseen. I choose you when we don't agree. And that kind of love, covenant love, is the soil where trust grows, where intimacy deepens, where true partnership blooms, not perfect, not painless, but pure, In a covenant, both husband and wife bring all of themselves, not half, not the parts they're proud of, not just the strengths and smiles, but the weaknesses, the fears, the wounds, and in the security of that covenant, there is space to be fully known and still fully loved. There is space to grow, to heal, to fail, and to try again. A covenant doesn't expect perfection. It expects perseverance. This kind of marriage cannot be built overnight. It is forged in the everyday, in small acts of kindness, in choosing to speak gently when anger rises, in listening when it's easier to walk away, in forgiving again when the offense cuts deep, in laughing together through the tears, in standing side by side when life tries to pull you apart. The covenant is strengthened not just in the big moments, but in the quiet, ordinary ones. The dishes washed, the hands held, the prayers whispered before sleep. And the beauty of this covenant, it does not end with two people. It becomes a testimony, a light in a world that is growing darker and more cynical about love. A marriage built on covenant becomes a shelter for children, a witness to friends, a legacy passed down to the next generation. It shows that love is not just possible, it's powerful. It's not just romantic, it's redemptive. But a covenant also requires accountability. It requires humility. It requires the courage to admit when you're wrong. To say, "I'm sorry," and mean it. To ask for help. To seek wisdom when your strength runs out. Because no one can carry this kind of love alone. It takes two hearts anchored in truth, committed to walking together even when the road is rough. Some may say, "But what if I married the wrong person?" Covenant says, now that you've chosen, choose them every day. Others may say, "But I've changed, they've changed." Covenant says, grow together, change together, find each other again. Still others say, "I don't feel love anymore." And covenant says, love anyway, feelings will follow where faith leads. This kind of marriage is not built on what is easy. It is built on what is eternal. It is not about control, but about trust. Not about winning, but about serving. Not about proving, but about protecting. It is a dance, a journey, a refining fire. It is where two people learn not only how to love each other, but how to become the best version of themselves in the process. There will be tears. There will be laughter. There will be long nights and joyful mornings. There will be moments of doubt and moments of wonder. But through it all, the covenant remains. And in a world where so many things fall apart, there is something extraordinary about a love that chooses to stay, that refuses to give up, that keeps showing up. And so, when a husband and wife step into this kind of relationship, not as a contract to be kept when convenient, but as a covenant to be honored through all, their love becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a force. A force that shapes hearts, changes lives, and leaves a mark not just on each other, but on everyone around them. Because a covenant is not just about holding hands in the good times. It's about holding on in the hard times. And that kind of love, selfless, stubborn, enduring, never goes unnoticed. Marriage is not something you enter lightly, and it's not something you hold loosely. It is not a deal, not a trade, not a try and see arrangement. Marriage is sacred. It is a covenant, sealed not only in words, but in the deepest parts of two lives coming together to become something entirely new. And once you understand that it is a covenant, not a contract, everything about it shifts. How you love, how you fight, how you forgive, how you stay. You don't sign up for what's easy. You sign up for what's eternal. Because a covenant doesn't dissolve when it's tested. It proves itself there. In a world that's grown so used to canceling anything that doesn't feel good anymore, marriage was never meant to be about temporary feelings. Contracts are about protection of rights and escape clauses. They ask, what do I get out of this? They count costs, they keep records, they worry about fairness. But a covenant, no, a covenant says, what can I give no matter the cost? It doesn't balance scales. It pours itself out again and again without asking to be repaid in full. It says, I am in this with you for all of it, the good, the bad, the unknown. I'm not going anywhere. You don't enter a covenant just because someone makes you feel good. You enter a covenant because you choose to give your best to someone even when they're not at their best, and you trust they'll do the same for you. You choose to stand even when it would be easier to run. You choose to forgive even when the wounds haven't fully healed. You choose to believe even when the emotions don't match, and the world may not understand it. The world may call it foolish. But the covenant was never for the world. It was for something higher, deeper, stronger than public opinion or personal comfort. There will be days when love doesn't look like flowers and songs. It will look like a silent meal, tired eyes, unanswered questions. It will look like showing up anyway, folding the laundry anyway, holding their hand anyway. It will look like grace when it's undeserved, patience when it's stretched thin, kindness when the words feel sharp. This is where the covenant speaks loudest, not in the honeymoon moments, but in the ones where it hurts to love and you do it anyway. Covenant says, even when you disappoint me, I won't disown you. It says, even when I feel empty, I won't leave. It says, even when I'm misunderstood, I will stay present. Because staying power is not built on ease, it's built on resolve. It's built on hearts that refuse to let temporary emotions dismantle what was meant to last a lifetime. And yes, it takes two. A covenant requires both husband and wife to lean in, to keep choosing, to keep trusting, not blindly, but bravely, and it is not that you will always feel fulfilled. Sometimes the cup will feel dry. Sometimes one will carry more than the other, but that's part of it too. Covenant love doesn't ask, is this fair? It asks, is this faithful? And in those moments of imbalance, of weariness, of frustration, something holy is being formed. The kind of bond that weathers decades, that builds legacies, that teaches children what commitment really looks like. The kind that outlasts changes in age, appearance, careers, and even dreams. It's not just about sharing a bed or a bank account or a last name. It's about sharing a purpose, about being witnesses to each other's becoming, about standing guard over each other's hearts, about seeing not just who your spouse is, but who they're becoming, and speaking life into that. Covenant says, I see your broken parts and I don't run. I see your flaws and I choose you anyway. I see your failures and I still call you mine. Because love like that doesn't shame, it doesn't give up. It lifts, it shields, it covers, it redeems, and when the fights come, and they will, when the silence creeps in, and it will, when the temptations whisper, and they do, you remember the vow, you remember the hands you held, the words you spoke, the eyes that met yours with hope and trembling. You remember that your word was not just for a good day, it was for all the days. And when you anchor yourself to that, when you remember that this is not a contract that can be voided when terms aren't met, but a covenant to be honored even when it's hard, then the storms may beat against your house, but they won't take it down. Covenant love is the kind of love that doesn't just survive trials, it shines through them. It's not that you won't have conflict, you will, but covenant gives you a reason to fight for each other instead of with each other. It teaches you to communicate instead of shut down, to listen instead of lecture, to extend grace instead of hold grudges. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes, not because you're perfect, but because the promise is more important than pride. There is a quiet power in two people who refuse to let go, in two people who choose the hard conversations, the slow rebuilding, the humble apologies, and the patient waiting. That power turns a fragile beginning into a firm foundation. It turns pain into purpose, hurt into healing, routine into rhythm. And it doesn't just bless the two who hold the covenant, it blesses everyone around them, because others see. They notice the endurance, the consistency, the trust. And in a world where everything moves fast and ends quicker, a lasting love speaks louder than any sermon. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to keep showing up. You don't need to always feel butterflies. You just need to keep choosing. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to be willing to keep growing. That's the beauty of covenant. It makes space for progress, not perfection. And the longer you walk it, the more it becomes clear that this promise is worth protecting. You will not always get it right. There will be tears. There will be misunderstandings. But there will also be laughter, deep joy, and memories you could never have imagined when you first began. Because the covenant does not just hold you in the valleys, it lifts you to heights you could never reach alone, and the love you build there, it's not just a feeling, it's a legacy. A husband is not just a figure in the household. He is not just a provider of income or a name on a mailbox. His role is not simply to exist in the home, but to lead it. Not through power, but through love, not through control, but through compassion. Leadership in the home is not about barking orders, raising voices, or having the final say. It's about being the first to serve, the first to forgive, the first to lay down pride. True leadership does not dominate, it demonstrates. It shows the way by walking it first. A husband who leads through love understands that strength is not measured by how loudly he speaks, but by how gently he handles what is fragile. It is not in how he demands respect, but in how he earns trust. His leadership is not about his convenience, but about the care of those he leads. He wakes up each day asking not, "What do I get today?" but "What can I give?" Because a husband who leads through love knows that every decision, every word, every glance has the power to either build up or break down the soul of his home. He leads not by towering over his wife, but by walking beside her. He doesn't try to mold her into an image of himself, but honors the unique beauty of who she is. He listens, he values her voice, he makes room for her dreams. He does not see her as someone to control, but as someone to cherish. He knows that her strength does not threaten his, it complements it. He understands that partnership does not mean losing authority, it means gaining depth. To lead through love is to protect without suffocating, to guide without manipulating, to correct without condemning. It means speaking truth, but always seasoned with grace. It means being firm when needed, but never cruel. It means holding your ground when the family needs direction, but also being humble enough to admit when you're wrong. Leadership is not about being flawless, it's about being faithful. It's not about being above mistakes, it's about taking responsibility for them. A husband who leads through love takes initiative. He initiates prayer when times are tough. He initiates peace when tempers rise. He initiates conversations when things are too quiet for too long. He doesn't wait for his wife to be the emotional or spiritual thermostat of the house. He rises to the role. He doesn't shy away from hard talks. He doesn't avoid the burdens that come with being a leader. He carries them, not because it's easy, but because he knows that love carries the weight without complaint. There is power in a quiet, steady husband, one who shows up when he's tired, one who holds the line when the storms come, one who sacrifices his own comfort so that his wife and children feel safe, one who puts down the phone and picks up the heart of his family. Leadership is not flashy, it's faithful. It's doing the right thing when no one sees it. It's keeping your word even when it costs you. It's being the calm in the chaos, the anchor in the wind, the steady hand when everything else feels uncertain. To lead through love is to understand timing. It's knowing when to speak and when to be silent. It's knowing when to challenge and when to encourage. It's knowing when your wife needs your advice and when she just needs your presence. Sometimes love leads by standing strong. Other times love leads by kneeling low. The heart of leadership isn't found in the volume of your voice, but in the purity of your motive. Are you leading to be seen, or are you leading to serve? There will be times when your wife needs more than your paycheck. She'll need your patience, your empathy, your unwavering belief in her when she's doubting herself. She'll need you to remember what she's forgotten about her worth. And in those moments, a husband who leads through love becomes a mirror, reflecting the value she carries, the beauty she may no longer see, the strength she's forgotten she has. Leadership doesn't puff itself up. It lifts others higher. A husband's leadership should create peace, not pressure. It should create safety, not fear. The home should feel lighter because he is in it, not heavier. His presence should calm the waters, not stir the storm. He should be the one who reminds his wife that she's not alone, that no matter what life throws their way, he's there not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, not half there, not distracted, not cold, but present. A rock, not a ghost. Leading through love also means leading by example. If he wants honesty, he must be honest. If he wants respect, he must show respect. If he wants peace, he must be peace. Children watch their father not only to see how to live, but how to love. How he treats their mother becomes the blueprint for what they'll expect or accept in their own relationships. His leadership ripples out into generations, not through grand gestures, but through everyday integrity. A husband must also lead himself. He must discipline his mind, guard his heart, check his ego. He must take care of his own soul so he has something to pour out. He cannot lead well if he is constantly running on empty. Leadership is not about burning yourself out. It's about knowing when to slow down, when to listen, when to recharge. Because a leader who ignores his own needs will eventually become a burden instead of a blessing. He must be the kind of man who is not swayed by every opinion, not blown over by every storm. He must be rooted, grounded, stable, not because he has all the answers, but because he knows where to turn when he doesn't. And in his steadiness, his wife will feel security. His children will feel confidence. His home will breathe easy even in hard times. Sometimes leadership will feel thankless. There will be days when it seems like no one notices the sacrifices, the long hours, the effort to stay patient. But a husband who leads through love doesn't do it for applause. He does it because he knows what's at stake. He does it because he's building something that matters, not just a house, but a home, not just a routine, but a legacy. And that kind of leadership is not always seen in the moment, but it is always felt. Love is the fuel. Love is the method. Love is the message. A love that is strong enough to lead, soft enough to listen, and secure enough to share the weight. A love that leads not with a clenched fist, but with an open hand. A love that says, "Follow me," and not because it demands it, but because it deserves it. That is the role of a husband, not just to live in the home, but to lead it with a heart full of courage, compassion, and unwavering love. A wife is not a background figure in a marriage. She is not someone who simply fills in the empty spaces or tends to the tasks no one else wants to do. She is a pillar in the home, not because she stands behind, but because she stands strong. Her strength does not scream for attention, but it is unmistakable. It is quiet sometimes, loud when it needs to be, gentle when comfort is needed, and fierce when protection is required. Her strength is not in opposition to her husband's. It is the very balance that makes the whole house stand tall. Support is not a lesser role. It is not submission to weakness, but participation in greatness. A wife who supports her husband does not shrink to make him feel big. She rises in her own calling, walks in her own purpose, and still chooses to walk beside him, not beneath him. Her support is not blind loyalty. It is conscious, intentional, wise, and powerful. It is rooted not in silence, but in shared vision. It is not about agreeing with everything, but about standing with someone through anything. Her presence doesn't echo his voice. It adds depth, it adds perspective, it adds life. A wife carries many things. She carries the weight of what's unspoken, the emotion that flows between everyone in the home, the memories that hold the house together. She often carries schedules, hearts, responsibilities, and still finds a way to hold herself together when it all feels like too much. She feels before anyone else feels. She notices what others miss. She listens between the words, and somehow, even when she's tired, she still finds a way to pour into everyone around her. The kind of support she offers is not passive. It's active, it's intentional, it's driven by love and held together by loyalty. She believes when her husband starts to doubt. She sees in him what he forgets to see in himself. She doesn't always speak loudly, but her voice carries weight. When she encourages, something stirs. When she challenges, something grows. When she prays, something shifts. Her words can calm storms or stir strength, and her silence can hold more meaning than 1,000 conversations. She supports by walking with, not behind, not far ahead, but with. Through conflict, through transition, through the highs and the lows, she shows up. When he feels weak, she reminds him of who he is, not by flattery, but by truth. When the world speaks doubt into him, she speaks courage. When others turn away, she leans in. Her strength is not just seen in what she does, but in what she endures, in what she overcomes, in how she keeps loving even when it's hard. Her role does not require her to disappear. In fact, her presence should be bold, her voice clear, her influence undeniable. She's not just a helper, she's a partner, a builder, a co-leader in the journey. Her insight matters, her dreams matter. Her intuition matters. She's not there to be quiet unless spoken to. She's there to speak life, wisdom, perspective, and courage into the relationship they are building together. Her support is not subservience, it's sacred. To support a husband is not to agree with everything he does. It's to love him enough to challenge him when he's off course, to stand beside him when he's unsure, to hold him accountable when he loses sight of who he is. She doesn't enable his weakness, she strengthens his purpose. She doesn't inflate his ego, she humbles him with love, and in doing so, she creates a safe place where he can lead, grow, fail, and heal without fear of rejection. Her strength is revealed in the way she carries love through the hard seasons. It's easy to support someone when everything is going right, when love feels effortless, when the days are smooth. But a wife's true strength is shown when things break down, when the business fails, when the children are struggling, when the husband is distant. That's when her support matters most. That's when her resilience shines. That's when her prayers are fierce, her patience unshakable, and her love undeniable. She supports not because she has to, but because she chooses to. Love that chooses daily is love that cannot be broken by circumstance. Her presence in the home is not decoration. It is foundation. Her laughter fills the space. Her wisdom guides the rhythm. Her hands create comfort. She's often the one who remembers the birthdays, who senses the shift in the air, who knows when something is wrong without needing to be told. That kind of presence is not weak, it is world-shaping. A wife's support gives her husband the freedom to be vulnerable. In a world that demands he be strong all the time, her love gives him a place to rest. He doesn't have to wear the mask with her. He doesn't have to pretend. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to press in and when to pull back. Her sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a gift. A weapon against disconnection, a bridge when there's distance, a hand reaching through the fog of stress, of confusion, of failure, and yet her role is not just about him. She supports her husband, yes, but she also supports herself. She walks with dignity. She doesn't lose herself in the process of loving him. She knows who she is. She protects her own soul while pouring into his. She doesn't abandon her dreams. She shares them. She doesn't hide her brilliance. She shines it. Because her calling is just as holy, her strength is just as necessary, her voice is just as powerful, and a strong wife walking in her full identity is a gift not only to her husband, but to the world. She sets the tone for her home, not by demand, but by example. When she loves deeply, others follow. When she forgives freely, healing begins. When she hopes against all odds, others find strength. Her ability to carry both grace and grit is unmatched. And though she may not always be praised, though her sacrifices may go unnoticed, her impact is lasting. Her love lingers in the hearts of those she touches. Her influence will echo into the future long after she's gone. Supporting a husband is not about staying silent. It's about staying steady. It's about showing up, not shrinking back. It's about knowing when to let him lead and when to lead him to something better. It's about love that stays awake, that fights gently, that holds fast. It's about being a voice of peace in chaos, a defender in the dark, a partner in the mission. And in doing so, a wife fulfills not a duty, but a destiny. She becomes not just part of the story, but the strength behind it, not a shadow, but a light, not just a name in the vows, but the reason they still matter years later. Her support does not just hold her husband, it shapes him. It steadies him. It helps him become who he was always meant to be. A home is more than walls and a roof, more than a kitchen full of dishes or a living room full of noise. A home is a place where two hearts, two lives, and often many stories begin to intertwine. But the truth is, no matter how beautifully it's decorated or how organized the calendar may be, a home will only be as strong as what it's built upon. If the foundation is shallow, the cracks will show. If the walls are built on feelings, the first wind of hardship will shake everything loose. That's why a home, and especially a marriage, needs something deeper, something stronger, something higher to hold it together when nothing else can. When two people come together, they bring more than love and good intentions. They bring their past, their fears, their habits, and their expectations. And while love may start the story, it's not always enough to carry it. Feelings change, circumstances shift. There will be seasons when things feel effortless and laughter comes easy, but there will also be seasons where everything feels heavy and you wonder how you even got here. In those moments when everything around you is shaking, what you're built on matters more than ever. A home built on self-will cannot stand for long. A marriage fueled only by desire or convenience will eventually run out of steam. But when both husband and wife reach upward before reaching inward, when they draw from something eternal, something unchanging, they find strength that doesn't run dry. They find peace that holds them together in the waiting, in the weeping, in the wondering. Because something higher means there is purpose in the pain, growth in the struggle, and beauty even in the breaking. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. Some homes survive by habit, by routine, by obligation. But a home that thrives has something unshakable at its core. It's not just about who's right and who's wrong or who does what. It's about being grounded in something that keeps the heart soft, the mind clear, and the vision focused. It's about having a compass that points you back to love when pride tries to lead you away. A home built on something higher becomes more than a place to live. It becomes a place to grow, to heal, to flourish. Storms will come, there's no way around it. There will be loss, there will be sickness, there will be disappointments. There will be moments when one of you feels distant, when connection is hard, when words feel heavy and every step feels like effort. But when the house is rooted in more than emotion, when it's grounded in commitment and guided by faithfulness, you don't crumble under the weight of pressure, you deepen under it. You find new strength not because you have it in yourselves, but because you're standing on something that never moves. Homes are loud sometimes, they're messy, they carry the weight of daily life, the bills, the chores, the kids, the calendar. But in the middle of all that, a deeper foundation brings clarity. It reminds you that the mess is sacred, that the routines matter, that the daily grind is part of something far bigger, that every conversation, every decision, every moment of connection is building something that will outlast even the two of you. Because when love is rooted deep, it doesn't fade when things get mundane. It grows stronger, it becomes more than just emotion, it becomes endurance. When a husband and wife reach for something higher together, they're not just holding hands, they're building a legacy. They're building a place where their children can learn what love looks like, what forgiveness sounds like, what sacrifice feels like. They're building a refuge in a world that's forgotten how to be still. They're building a story that tells others it is possible to stay, to work through it, to fight for something more. That kind of home doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention, by choosing daily to align your values, to speak life, to return to what matters most. A marriage without that higher source becomes easily overwhelmed. The little things start to pile up. The pressure of performance, the distraction of the world, the weight of disappointment, all of it starts to seep into the cracks. But when you keep going back to what holds you both steady, you find new grace for each other. You stop keeping score. You start fighting for peace instead of position. You begin to understand that being right is not more important than being united. That success is not measured in winning arguments, but in how quickly you reach for each other after them. The tone of a home is often set by what it's anchored to. If it's anchored to fear, there will be tension. If it's anchored to performance, there will be pressure. But if it's anchored to something higher, something filled with grace and truth, there will be freedom. There will be room for failure without fear of rejection. There will be room for dreams without fear of judgment. There will be room for growth without fear of shame. A house like that becomes a sanctuary, not because it's quiet, but because it's safe. You don't build a strong home in a day. You build it over years of consistency, of faithfulness, of small, unseen moments where you choose to forgive again, to apologize first, to show up when it would be easier to walk away. You build it when you encourage instead of criticize, when you serve instead of expect, when you stay instead of shut down. You build it when you look across the table and remember why you started and why it's still worth building. There will be times when the foundation is all you have, when your emotions are flat, when the romance feels dull, when the connection feels lost, and that's when you realize the power of what's underneath it all. Because the house still stands, the door still opens, the heart still beats. Not because everything feels good, but because something greater than your feelings is holding it all together. It's easy to love when everything is going well. But a home built on something higher learns how to love in the middle of the fire. It learns to praise in the pain, to hold hands in the chaos, to speak gently when it would be easier to shout. That kind of home becomes a miracle in motion. Not because it's perfect, but because it's anchored. And when others look at it, they don't see a fantasy. They see a faithfulness. They see two people who have weathered the storms, stayed in the fight, and kept choosing love even when it cost them. And all of this becomes more than just about the husband or the wife. It becomes a place where others find hope, where children find safety, where friends feel peace, where the weary find rest, It becomes a beacon in a world full of broken promises and temporary connections. It becomes the proof that love, when rooted in something higher, really can last, it really can grow, it really can thrive, not just in the good times, but through them all.